If you like monsters and 80s nostalgia, then this might just be the manga for you. So on top of all the cool illustrations, it also has this deep philosophical side, and it has a really cool story, which is all summed up in 10 volumes. Any of you that have read manga before might know that sometimes they just keep going on and the story stops making any sense at all. But this one is all summed up in 10 volumes, so it has a really great story from the beginning to the end. This manga might not be so well known in Western countries or in other countries where manga is popular, but here in Japan, almost anyone that reads manga knows what this is. And the title is Kiseiju, which comes from the word kisei, which means to parasite. And the noun for parasite is kiseichu, which has this kanji for insect on the end. So the title of this manga, they took away the kanji for insect and they put the kanji for kemono, which is like beast. So it's kind of like a mix of parasite and beast. In English that doesn't work, so the title is just Parasite with a Y. So if you can read in Japanese, or if you're studying Japanese, I really recommend trying to read this in Japanese. I haven't read the English version, but I imagine there's a lot of things, like we just saw even with the title, that don't really translate very well, and you'll probably miss out on some things. So right on the first page, there's some narration that says, if the human population was reduced to half the amount, how many forests would be saved from burning? So straight away I thought, wow, this is going to be pretty deep. And right after that, we see these tiny things that look something like blossom falling from the sky. And these tiny things land on people. And this is in fact the parasite. So these people turn into these monsters that look something like this. But what happens to the main character, who's called Shinichi? He stops the parasite from reaching his brain. Because with the other people and the animals, when this parasite gets in their brain, it takes complete control of them. But what happens with Shinichi is he catches it in his hand and he wraps a belt around his arm and the parasite gets stuck in his hand. But then where it gets philosophical is Shinichi can talk with his hand, which is actually this side. It's on the right side because the name of the character is Migi, which comes from Migi, which means right in Japanese. And while talking with Migi, he starts to get a bit of understanding of what these parasites are doing. So these parasites have come from out of space, and I don't want to give any spoilers about anything in the story, so I won't go into too much detail. But basically, they're on Earth and they're eating people. They've taken over some people and then they're going around and eating other humans. And Shinichi says to Migi, like, this is not right, you can't do this. And Migi says, well, isn't this what humans are doing to all the animals on the planet? I think the main point of the writer is he was trying to show people that humans can be quite self-centered. We sort of think, oh, everything on this world is made for us, it's all here for us, and we kind of forget that there are other living things on this planet too. So while talking with Migi, his hand, and while talking with the other parasites, Shinichi starts to understand that, oh, maybe there are other points of views, and maybe humans are making up their own rules of morality as we go along. And then from there, Shinichi goes on an adventure with Migi, and they go fighting parasites, they start working with parasites. There's all things that happen within these 10 volumes that I don't want to spoil for you, so I really recommend that you go and read it yourself. As I said earlier, if you can read it in Japanese, or if you want to try reading it in Japanese, I'd really recommend that. But there is also an English version, and make sure not to get confused with the remake. So there was a remake, there was an anime that was made a few years ago, and also a comic version of that as well. And it just has exactly the same story, but it took away all the original kind of 80s nostalgic charm and turned it into modern day. People are using cell phones, or of course all their clothing is more modern. And I watched the anime version, and it was the exact same story, but it just wasn't the same without that kind of cool 80s feel to it. So thank you all very much for watching today. If you want to know more about Japan, Japanese stuff, or Japanese language, don't forget to subscribe. If you have any comments, write them below, and please don't forget to like. See you all back here next time.